Okay, so ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be looking at a story from the Heart to Heart podcast um, about a woman named Lisa she's having, some trouble in her relationship.
Hmm.
And it really kind of gets at, some of those tricky parts of relationships that I think a lot of people, can relate to.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today is really try to unpack her story and see what we can learn from Lisa's situation.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether you're in a relationship or not.
So I think there's a lot that we can apply from her story to our own lives, I think,
Right? Exactly.
regardless of our relationship status.
Exactly. So to start, Lisa and her boyfriend Adam, they've been together for 3 years.
Okay.
But she says things have really started to change in the past 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And she's feeling very distant from him. And, whenever she tries to talk to him about it, he kind of just brushes it off and blames it on work stress.
Oh, so he's being dismissive.
Very much so.
Okay.
And she's, it's causing her to really feel like she's not being heard.
So this is what we call like a classic communication breakdown,
Right.
right? Like she's trying to express her needs, he's not receptive to it.
Yeah.
And that can really lead to resentment and other issues down the line.
And what's interesting too is the word that she used to describe how she felt was invisible.
Ooh, that's powerful.
Yeah. It's really striking.
Yeah, it's not just, oh, I'm a little upset or I feel a little off. It's like she feels like she could just disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
And he wouldn't even notice.
It's really quite sad when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be really damaging to someone's self-esteem. Because a healthy relationship, should make you feel seen and appreciated. Like you matter, You're not just there.
Yeah.
You're a vital part of the relationship.
And Lisa actually mentioned that things weren't always this way. She said, 6 months ago, he was very attentive. He would plan dates. He made her feel really special, really valued.
Okay.
And now it's just like they're just kind of, going through the motions.
See, and this is key, I think, recognizing those shifts in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's not about, oh, it's his fault that things changed, or it's her fault that things changed. It's about noticing, okay, something shifted 6 months ago.
Yeah.
What was happening 6 months ago? Did something happen at work? Did something happen in their families? Was there an external stressor?
Oh, that's a really good point.
Because by noticing that, it can help you get to the root of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like figuring out where things went off track.
Exactly.
And maybe how to get back on track.
Yeah. And back to Lisa, feeling invisible.
Right. Yeah.
It's like you were saying, it's not just about feeling a little annoyed.
No.
It's about feeling unimportant.
Right.
Like you're not valued. And that can really, chip away at your self-esteem.
Absolutely.
And if that's not addressed, it can really cause long-term damage to someone's sense of self-worth.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because on the podcast, the advice that the host gave her was to focus on herself.
Okay.
To rediscover the things that bring her joy, like her painting.
Hmm.
And I thought that was, at first I was like, well, that seems, it seems simple.
Yeah.
But is there something more to that?
It's really about empowerment.
Okay.
It's about taking back your power and saying, okay, regardless of what happens in this relationship, I'm going to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to do things that bring me joy. I'm going to nurture my own spirit.
Oh, I love that.
And what that does is it gives you clarity.
Okay.
It helps you see the situation more clearly. And it also gives you strength.
Yeah.
Strength to either, address the issues in the relationship head on, or strength to walk away if it's not serving you.
It's like remembering who you are.
Yes.
Outside of the relationship.
Exactly. You got it.
That's really beautiful. And I love how the podcast host kind of left her with this thought. She said, love should feel alive, not like an obligation.
Wow. It's so powerful. And I think it applies to everyone listening,
Yeah.
It's a call to action to look at our own relationships and say, okay, is this bringing me joy?
Yeah.
Is this relationship nurturing me? Or is it draining me?
That's a great question to ask.
Yeah.
And so as we're kind of, coming to the end of our deep dive here,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the key takeaways? I mean, what are some of the things that you hope our listeners really take away from Lisa's story in our conversation?
I think Lisa's story really highlights the importance of communication.
Yeah.
And not just talking, but really listening.
Right.
Listening to understand.
How can we make sure we're really hearing our partner?
There's a technique called active listening, and it's about reflecting back what you hear to make sure you understand it.
Yeah.
It's about asking clarifying questions.
Right.
It's about really showing the other person that you're engaged, you're present, you're trying to see things from their perspective.
About making them feel seen.
Yes.
That their feelings are valid.
Exactly. And beyond just communication, I think it's also so important to pay attention to those subtle shifts in a relationship.
Yeah.
If things start to change, don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Address it.
Address it.
Have the conversation.
Yeah.
Be curious. Ask yourself, what's different? What needs to be adjusted?
And ultimately prioritize your own happiness.
Yes.
Right.
Because if you're not happy with yourself, it's going to be really hard to have a fulfilling, happy, healthy relationship.
Right.
And taking care of yourself isn't selfish.
No.
It's essential.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I really hope that our listeners, got a lot out of this.
Me too.
Is there one last thing, one final thought that you hope our listeners will take away from all this?
Remember that relationships are a two-way street.
Yeah.
Both people need to feel valued.
Right.
Both people need to feel heard.
Yes.
So just take a moment and consider the energy that you're bringing to your relationships.
Okay.
Is it positive? Is it balanced? And if not, what can you do to change that? Sometimes having a tough conversation, that's the best way to show love.
That's a really good point. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was great. And to our listeners, we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Bye, everyone.